Welcome to episode 30 of A New Way to Love, Live, and Lead. I'm your host, Cheryne Blom. This podcast is here to remind you that midlife isn't a crisis. It's a powerful invitation to come home to yourself, a time to reconnect with who you truly are and make this the most aligned, fulfilling chapter yet. The last episode was called Reset to Rise. We spoke about resetting your pace, your priorities, and your boundaries. We spoke about the power of a micro reset, taking a short mini break throughout your day that energizes you completely. And I hope that you found a few powerful micro resets that you can bring into your day. Remember, they don't have to be big or take up too much time. They need to be meaningful to you on a soul level. And today we're going deeper because you can change your schedule and still feel exhausted. You can slow down and still feel overwhelmed. And the reason is this. Burnout isn't just coming from what you're doing. It's coming from where you're doing life from. There are patterns that most of us carry. They don't look like problems. They actually look like strengths. Being responsible, being kind, being capable, being independent. But underneath those strengths are identities. And beneath those identities, there is something even deeper. And this is the layer that we're going to today. Because to truly understand burnout, we need to understand this. You are always operating from one of two places, your ego or your essence. And if you have read my book, The Courage to Be You, and you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will know what I mean by ego and essence. Let me just quickly define each. Your essence is your truth. It is calm, it is grounded, it is clear, it's self-connected. It is your essential nature, not who you show up socially. It's your essence, the soul of you. It doesn't need to prove or perform or protect. It simply is. Your ego, on the other hand, well, your ego is not the enemy. Your ego is protection. It is designed to keep you safe. And at its core, your ego is built on three very simple beliefs. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And I'm not worthy. Now, most of us don't even realize that these beliefs are functioning because they happen deep in the core. They are the coding that is programming how the ego performs and the decisions that we make on who we need to be and how we need to show up in our world. So we're not always conscious of these, but they sit underneath these patterns. And without awareness, they quietly run your life. This is what I call in my book safety habits, as opposed to happiness habits. The safety habits are like people-pleasing, over-responsibility, proving, hyper-independence, avoidance. Now, these are not flaws, they are strategies. They are your ego saying, how do I stay safe? How do I avoid rejection? How do I maintain control? But here's the cost. You end up living from fear, not truth. And this is the worst part because without awareness, we don't even know we are operating from fear. And so we end up making the same choices, following the same habits and repeating behavior that is not leading to our best self or not leading to our happiness. It is actually keeping us stuck. And this is the piece that most people miss. When you are operating from ego, you are in a stress response. Even if it doesn't look dramatic, even if you seem fine, because your nervous system doesn't know the difference between real danger, emotional discomfort, or perceived rejection. So when you are overthinking, people-pleasing, over-delivering, holding everything together, your nervous system is activated. And this is why burnout happens. Not because you're working too hard, but because you are working from protection. Protection is energy expensive. Fear is energy expensive. Being on guard all the time is exhausting. So you're not just doing your life. You're doing your life while your nervous system is quietly bracing. And this is what drains us. So now let's dig into these 5 patterns that are silently burning us out. When we look at these patterns, I want you to see them differently, not as behaviors, but as ego identities trying to keep you safe. So the first one is the responsible one. This identity says, I'll take care of it. And this is your ego saying, if I hold everything together, I will be safe. Because somewhere along the way, being responsible became your identity. But underneath that is a fear. If I don't do it, something will go wrong. I can't let things fall apart. So your nervous system stays alert, scanning, managing, holding, and slowly you burn out from carrying what was never yours. Think of this activation as your foot on the accelerator all the time. You are going to burn out. You're going to run out of fuel. Now, the reframe here from your essence has a different saying. It says, you are allowed to hold your life, not everything. The next identity is the Peacekeeper. And this one wants to keep everyone happy. This is your ego saying, if everyone is okay, I am safe. Because conflict once felt unsafe. So you learn to manage emotions, not express your truth. But underneath is fear. If they're upset, I'll lose connection. If I speak up, I might be rejected. And so your nervous system stays in appeasement, softening, adjusting, containing. And the reframe here, your essence is saying you are safe to be honest, even if it creates discomfort. And if this was all easy, we would default into this space first. But because of negativity bias and because the nervous system has to protect us, we default into these identities. And so sometimes they are hard to confront. And it feels, well, I guess confronting to recognize these identities. And I hope that through this conversation, you're starting to gain awareness. Because the hardest part of this is to take an honest look at ourselves and see these identities that are actually blocking us from authentic happiness. And the next pattern is the prover. This identity says, I need to show I'm enough. This is your ego saying, if I achieve, I will be worthy. But underneath is fear. The fear of I am not enough yet. I have to earn my place. So your nervous system stays in drive, pushing, producing, performing, never fully landing. And your essence here, the reframe, is that you are already enough. There is nothing left to prove. you do not even need to prove. And the next one is the independent one, the one that says, I've got this. This is your ego saying, if I rely on myself, I won't get hurt. And underneath that is a deep untrust for other people and a feeling like I have to do this alone. So your nervous system stays guarded, closed, self-reliant, protective. And your essence would say right now that you are allowed to be supported. That is your truth. And the last identity that we are going to explore today is what I call the avoider. And this is the identity that says it's easier not to deal with it. This is your ego saying, if I avoid this, I stay safe. And that fear underneath is I can't handle what might happen, or this is too uncomfortable. So your nervous system stays in freeze, delaying, suppressing, holding. Stagnation. We can start to understand why we stay stuck. And here, your essence would say, you can handle truth. And truth is actually what sets us free. And if it's one thing that I would want you to take away from today, is to remember that you're not burnt out because your life is too full. You're burned out because your nervous system is living in protection, and protection was never meant to be our permanent state. So I'd like you to just pause for a moment and ask yourself, where am I living from fear instead of truth? And this is where courage comes in, because it takes a lot of courage to take ourselves out of these comfort zones. These identities are like comfort zones. They're where we will default to, where we feel safe without us even knowing. And maybe a reflection practice to add to that this week is to ask yourself as well, is this my ego trying to keep me safe, or my essence guiding me forward? When you can pause before you make a decision and catch yourself in that decision-making process and choose courage over comfort, that begins your pathway to renewal and to self-mastery. It instantly shakes you out of survival and back into self-connection. And it's so important to remember that there's nothing wrong with you. Your ego did exactly what it was designed to do. It protected, it adapted, it helped you survive. But you are not here to just survive anymore. That is not what midlife is. Remember, midlife is our moment to pause and to recalibrate and to reimagine life from a place of truth. You are here to live. And living requires something different. No more effort, no more control, more awareness. Because the moment you see this pattern, you are no longer inside it. And the moment you move from ego and back into your essence, your energy begins to return. Your clarity returns. Your calm returns. Your power returns. Reset to rise. Not by doing more, but by releasing protection and returning to your truth. Reset to rise. If this conversation resonated with you, I've created a free guide called Reset to Rise, designed to help you go deeper into these patterns. Inside this ebook, you'll explore each identity in more detail, including the beliefs driving it, how it was formed, and why it still may be running the show beneath the surface. Because awareness is where real change begins. You'll find the link in the show notes and description to this episode. And if you're listening and feeling like you're ready to move beyond awareness, but you're not quite sure how to shift these patterns on your own, I'd love to support you. You can also find the link in the show notes there to book a connection call with me and find out more about our one-on-one coaching. This is a gentle space to explore what's been holding you back and what it would look like to truly come home to yourself. Thank you for joining me on a new way to love, live, and lead. And remember, you're not too late. You are right on time. And your best, most aligned, and energetic chapter begins right now.